All right, welcome back to Wrestling Retold and Relive with Richie Mars. I, of course, am your humble, gracious host, Richie Mars. Thank you for listening on either Spotify or Apple Podcast for your podcasting needs. Again, at Retold Richie Mars on the Instagram and the TikTok videos every day. But enough about me, please. I hate talking about myself. We are here with a great topic, something that I don't get to do much on Wrestling Retold and Relived, and it is talking about television shows that happen to star wrestlers. And this one is probably one of the more critically acclaimed pieces of wrestler turned actor media, that being Peacemaker, which came out in 2022. But I could not handle this alone. It's an 8 episode season. I can't do that alone. I needed to call some friends. I phoned a friend. I used my 50-50. I used the Ask the Audience, so phone a friend. I did, but one didn't pick up the call. It was two of them. They are my friends over at Shoot the Flick. Frankie Sparks, Scott Eisenberg. Welcome back, guys. It's been a minute since you both were here together.
It has been a minute, and actually, this is Frankie's second time on your show, so she's gonna need a nickname at the end. Just saying.
I think I'll piece one together.
Yeah, you've been on several times solo, Scott, because I am not the wrestling aficionado that you guys are. However, I'm always down to critique film and or television, so I'm here to play. But what was the last thing we did on here?
Money Plane.
Oh God! I forgot about Money
You
Plane.
keep blocking out
I
money.
keep trying to block it out. It's so traumatic.
Here's the thing. Every time I've been on for like either your show or my show for like the past year, because you are also here from the Dave Bautista's acting career episode too.
Yes, that was fun.
So that was like we started the Money Plane bit then, and now it's been about like over a year, and we're still talking about Money Plane, even though we talked about Money Plane.
Oh my God, that movie. All
but-
right. Well, this is a better situation. I feel like we're in today.
But we're gonna let Money Plane rest in peace. But speaking
Yes,
of
please.
peace, we're going into
Yes,
the
peace.
Look at that segue. We're going
That was
to
good.
Peacemaker. Now, when have you guys heard when Peacemaker was coming? Did you guys know he was getting a spin-off series when the Suicide Squad came out? What were your memories of Peacemaker first being brought to light in your film and TV show aficionado world?
Well, I remember when the Suicide Squad,
Yes, we have to make the distinction.
yes,
Mhm.
the Suicide Squad came out, and everyone was raving about Cena's performance in it.
Which, I mean, everyone was pretty much raving about the movie in general because it actually wasn't shit. And for DC at that time, it was a big deal that it wasn't shit. I remember it being good. I remember Cena doing good in it. But yeah, I feel like the news about the spinoff came afterwards. I was kind of like indifferent about it. I think. I mean, I literally told Richie just before we started recording, I'm like, I never would have watched this if we weren't doing it for your show. So thankfully, it worked out okay.
Now, was that initial hesitation just because of Peacemaker, what you saw in the Suicide Squad, or do you think it's John Cena since he's still relatively new to acting? Did you think he wouldn't be able to carry a show on his own? What was the initial hesitation?
I think it's partially just the indifference to the Suicide Squad, but also, I mean, it's funny because we were actually just talking about this today, like earlier, like because obviously the trifecta of like wrestlers turn movie stars is Batista, The Rock, and John Cena. And they all have like their specific place in the trifecta. And Cena has kind of placed himself in the vein of like, yeah, I'll do that. That sounds cool. Like he's very much the guy that's like, if you're at a party and you're getting shit faced and you dare the guy to like jump off the roof into the pool, like Cena's that guy in his acting career. It seems like.
I mean, he doesn't really say no to a role. Like we've seen him in
Right,
the Barbie
exactly.
movie. We've seen him in Ricky Stenicki. We've seen him in now the unreleased Acme versus Wile E.
Oh my
Coyote,
God.
which may or may not be released by the time this is recorded because it was a tax write off. So John Cena has many different pretty much movies and shows, and this was his technically first television show where he had to carry it basically as the main lead. And in the Suicide Squad, he wasn't really the lead; he was just a part of the ensemble cast, and that kind of determined if it's like how you have chemistry with your cast members. And the cast members that we have here, he didn't really interact with within the Suicide Squad, to my knowledge. So now it's like you're working from the ground up, so to speak.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you didn't really know anything about Peacemaker through the Suicide Squad. Like you knew little bits and pieces, but
He's just kind of like a dick in the movie, which I mean is fine. But yeah, in this he had to really kind of branch out, and he had to form like have chemistry with other people and form relationships with other characters. And like in the second half of the season you get more into like his backstory and like more emotional shit. And yeah, I mean I think he did a lot better than probably most people were expecting.
And let's talk about just the superhero movie universe that we're going through right now. Obviously, this is DC, but at the time, since this is 2022 and the Suicide Squad, I believe, was 2021, if I'm
sounds
not
about right.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Like around that time, the superhero movie fatigue was running rampant since Endgame ended. So when this was coming up, do you think this show happened at the right time, or do you think because superheroes weren't really much of the talk of the town that there was people like not really interested in it initially?
Well, the thing about the superhero fatigue thing, as much as there's been a kind of a fatigue, I think it's more because everybody's trying to find their footing, and DC has a weird reputation, and this is like the second thing really attached to James Gunn's DC universe.
Mm.
Nothing else. So you have the Suicide Squad and this, and that's kind of what he cares about. Like he doesn't like. Yes, we've had Aquaman 2 since then. I don't think we've had any, and the Flash since then, but like no one.
We don't talk about the Flash.
Those were kind of like leftovers from before his time.
Mhm.
So he's got a thing with like the weird characters, and right now everybody's kind of like Marvel's in a weird place because they're trying to reestablish another.
Strangely though, DC is even in a weirder place. And I think now that James Gunn is taking over like the whole universe, I think people are like gearing up and getting more excited about it. But at this time, I think it was like a weird cross. Okay, the dog is barking. Sorry. I think it was like a weird cross between like just distrust in the whole superhero shtick and like just being over it, but then also having a weird trust in James Gunn because James Gunn makes cool shit.
Mhm.
So I think people were just kind of desperate for something decent, and they kind of latched on to Peacemaker.
And let's talk about James Gunn, because it's no secret that James Gunn is a famed director, especially within the superhero genre. You know, directed all three of the Guardians movies. I believe he did that horror-based Superman
Yes.
movie, and he's done like other works. I think he did Scooby Doo 2 or something like that, or the Scooby Doo movies.
Yeah, I think he did the Scooby Doo like the
Yeah.
live action ones.
Yes, he did.
Those are fun.
Yeah, he did that. He did Brightburn is the movie you were thinking of before, the
Yes, yes,
horror
yes.
Superman.
Mhm.
He wrote Belko, I think.
Falco Experiment, yeah.
So
Um,
James Gunn has like a history of creating at least like very interesting set piece kind of movies with his own distinct humor. How does Peacemaker separate itself from the pack, or is it just kind of like your standard James Gunn type of story slash
Oh my god,
movie
like the
for
first half of the season I was like, "Oh my god, this is all just standard James Gunn stuff," which is fine I guess for some people. It was very broy in the beginning and I'm like, "Oh my god." I can't. I was like, "Ugh, okay."
yeah, it's funny because we almost do have to separate this into like the first 3 episodes and the last 5 episodes.
Yeah,
Because the first 3 episodes definitely feel paint by numbers.
right.
They feel like we've seen all these jokes before. We've seen James Gunn bits before. and then there's like a turn, and you're like, okay, here we go. Like it
Yeah,
feels.
shit starts getting real. And like the plot really
Mhm.
starts moving. But like yeah, those first maybe 3 or 4 episodes, I'm just like, oh my god, we're just being broy, and John Cena's got a weird eagle, and this fucking other guy in a suit is being weird. It's like, oh, just weird people
it,
everywhere.
it was a bunch of just establishing our
Yeah.
characters, establishing the story. I believe, if my memory serves me correct, since this aired on HBO Max, what it was called at the time, I believe the first 2 episodes premiered the same day. So it was like one giant feature just to kind of get the audience hooked, and then everything was like a week by week basis, just like coming out. So for 2 episodes to kind of like feel very similar could be kind of off putting. And if you're not really attracted to the humor right away, then that's when it kind of might lose its audience. But it actually did gain its audience as the show would go on. And I think a big portion of that has to do with the opening, the intro theme, which is
Oh my god.
do you want to taste it by Wigwam? So how do you guys feel about the opening? Did you skip it? Did you appreciate it? What were your overall thoughts compared to other television shows?
I had seen it before, just like a clip of it, because it was so silly.
Mhm.
Like I feel like they were definitely sharing that around when the show first came out to like promo it. Like, look how silly this is, and it is. It's funny, and like it definitely sets the tone for the whole series because the whole series is just like underscored with like fucking hair metal rock and like 80s shit. It's like it's definitely a vibe.
Oh, it's silly as hell. But it's a fun, dumb thing. John Cena's dancing, everybody's dancing.
Stone face,
Stone
just
face.
so serious and dancing so silly.
Like, I think we watched it the first 2 times, and then like, okay, we get this at this point.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, though, when it comes back at the very end, I was like, yeah, yeah, here we go.
Oh, the song you mean in like the final part of
Yeah,
of the show? Yeah.
but
It's a very like fun, upbeat tune, and I believe I don't believe I read that the whole sequence of them being stone faced and dancing really silly was to kind of tie in the actual plot of the show, which we'll probably get into right now. So the story of it is John Cena, or Christopher Smith, aka Peacemaker, has been recruited by the leftovers from the Suicide Squad movie. You have Amelia Hardcore, played by Jennifer Holland. You have John Economos, played by Steve and Agee, and they're just trying to figure out like this new butterfly project that's going on. And what the butterflies are these aliens that are like really creepy, that are butterflies that then go into the mouths of human to take over their body as kind of like hosts, and to like just pretty much cause chaos. They want to bring their food source because they have, butterflies. They have like the little, I guess, little proboscis or
yeah.
something like that to suck, like this thing where it's. I can't really explain it that well because it's a bunch of alien jargon. So I'm doing my best, but they're trying to bring their food source, which they call the cow, to the Earth's planet to bring quote unquote peace to the Earth because the Earth has so many flaws. And if they let the butterflies take control, then the butterflies can make Earth a better place. Now we have some other characters as well, but how do you guys feel about the story? Do you think it's kind of paint by numbers? Do you think it's a little bit creative? Where do you guys land on the story?
I think there's a lot of great ideas here. I think the idea of it's kind of actually stealing a little bit from Marvel.
Sure, you can say that about like
Well,
a lot of the DC movies. I mean,
yeah, but
the ones that did the best were the ones that were conveniently most like Marvel.
but no, but like DC and Marvel always steal from each other constantly. But this kind of feels a little scrolly. Um,
Sure. Oh yeah, for
with
sure. And it doesn't help that they have the villain from Guardians 3 as like the leader of the team that's also a butterfly, spoiler alert. Who by the way, I was really happy to see him. If I could pronounce his name, I'd say it, but
Oh,
I
so
can't.
so
So
so so I actually prepared for this. So
oh, fabulous.
on his Wikipedia page, like it has like a pronunciation. So we'll go right here.
Chukudi. Iwuji.
Okay, so it's Chikuji
Perfect.
There we go.
Iwuji. So he's very great in this.
He's so good.
He plays kind of like the head of this operation who happens to be a butterfly, but it's a butterfly that don't agree with the other what the other butterflies are doing about taking over the world. And again, like you said, he's in Guardians 3. I believe this came out before Guardians 3, if I'm
Yes.
Yeah,
not
right? Yeah.
mistaken. Yeah, so it's like very good performance. And again, I can't say enough good things about the cast and crew who worked on this movie because it just kind of felt like, yeah, it was your standard superhero uh tale. It's very Guardians esque. A bunch of these misfits coming together. You have the serious badass chick. You have the bumbling sidekick. You have the straight laced leader. But all of them kind of worked off each other really well. How'd you feel about the cast's chemistry throughout the show?
I thought it was really great. I agree with the misfit thing. Also, Danielle Brooks is in this, which I didn't know before we did it. She was actually nominated for an Oscar last year for The Color Purple.
Ooh.
But yeah, she killed it too. I remember her from Orange is the New Black. I think she was also really good in that as well. But I liked her a lot. She's supposed to be, I feel like, the closest thing to the audience surrogate because she's like the most normal quote unquote person. But then she has a secret also, which she's Waller's daughter. Ooh.
Mm.
Which, by the way, the minor once in a blue moon appearances from Viola Davis were hilarious to me. It's like, she is too expensive to actually be a part of this series. We'll just go over to her house and film a cameo like on a Sunday.
All right, so let's go and go by the cast one by one, and we'll talk about their story arcs throughout the whole series and kind of break it down. So, of course, we got our main lead. We have Peacemaker, aka Chris Smith, aka played by John Cena, pretty much coming off of a very near death experience in the Suicide Squad, and now he has his own show and his own mission. And his story pretty much is in a bunch of different directions, from his relationship with his dad, with his relationship with himself, and not wanting to kill anybody anymore, everything like that. And of course, we have some humor along the way. What did you guys think about John Cena's portrayal as Peacemaker and Chris Smith? Do you think one is stronger than the other, John Cena as Peacemaker or him as Chris Smith? Which one did you gravitate towards the most?
I think we got a lot more Chris Smith than we did Peacemaker. Because I think this is all about like losing that identity of Peacemaker throughout the series and being okay with who you actually are. Like that's his whole through line through the movie, not the movie, the show. Oh god, my brain. Um, but I think he does well. I think Peacemaker will probably go down as his like, oh, when we talk about John Cena in the future, what's that character that defines his career? It's probably going to be Peacemaker.
Mhm.
Well, I think this is the most seriously that anyone's probably taken him as an actor, in the sense that like he actually doled out some real like emotional shit, like through his relationship with his father in the show played by Robert Patrick, and then like his backstory with his brother when he was a kid. And it's he even like, squeezed out some genuine tears in the show, which I was like surprised by. He had a lonely rolling tear now and again, and I was like, "Ooh, okay, I believe you, John Cena. Like, I'm down for it."
And the backstory of Christopher Smith is that him and his brother were really close, and for fun, Robert Patrick's character would force them to fight each other, and it ended when Peacemaker accidentally punched his brother too hard. He started seizing and then died. And then from then on, his dad would hate on Chris Smith because he killed the brother when it's actually the dad who forced them to fight each other. So
Obviously,
a
yeah.
lot of screwed up stuff in this series. So
And, also his dad's basically the head of the KKK.
His dad is like a
yeah,
KKK supervillain, which
yeah.
is insane.
So pretty much like this guy is a combination of two DC villains and one of them is the White Dragon, which is the alter ego. It's kind of like a very, I guess what you could call it is a very racist Iron Man suit.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much what it was in the series. What did you think about the relationship between John Cena and Robert Patrick, their characters together?
Well, I think they had an interesting relationship. It's definitely competitive, even though John Cena wants to love him and wants to see the good in his father, there's no good to honestly be found. But Robert Patrick, honestly, he's basically been a staple in our household since what, Terminator 2?
Well, yeah, he kind of cemented himself as like the go-to hard ass villain actor. Like,
And
I don't think I've ever seen him play like just like a nice guy. Like, I'm trying to think. I can't remember at all.
no, he's always had like an edge about him. Even if he is like a good guy, he's not like 100% good. Like he's got something dark behind the scenes, or he's willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. But like, it's just an interesting dynamic of like, he thinks his son's a piece of shit, because he blames his son for killing his other son, even though, whatever, he's a racist asshole. It's like, it's a very weird kind of dynamic to play with, but they do a good job with it.
You can tell they're all having a good time,
Mhm.
which helps a lot just in general with the show. I think in anything in general, if you can tell the actors are having a good time, then the audience is going to have a good time.
I definitely do see that. Like everybody here is just having a blast with their role. And let's talk about Peacemaker's kind of journey throughout the whole show and his story arc. What did you guys think about his story arc from beginning to end? Was it a believable change? Or did you think it was just kind of like some parts were forced? What did you think of his overall story?
Well, they kind of established from the beginning. I think even in the end of like Suicide Squad when he kills Rick Flag, it's like established that he has guilt over that, and then it carries over into the show. So you can tell that they kind of immediately establish there's something good in him and he's just kind of grossly misguided. So there's definitely something that can be shaped into maybe not like a good guy, but like an anti-hero of some sort perhaps. I don't know, but there's a good guy underneath all the bullshit.
Yeah, it's interesting with Peacemaker. Like, yeah, there's a good guy in it. The- It's because you have him playing off certain characters. Like, you have his father, who's 100% evil. Like, he's not a good guy. Then you have Vigilante, who probably is more evil than Peacemaker, just
Oh,
because
he's like a sociopath.
he's a lunatic.
We'll get to him.
And it's interesting because you're like, there are times where you're like, yeah, could this possibly have been a little forced? Probably. I can't, like, especially with him and the Vigilante and their discussions about, like, hey man, you used to kill people all the time and not have a problem with it. It's all good. And then when but you're like, it's mostly believable, and that's because you have James Gunn, who knows what he's doing behind the scenes.
And going, one of my favorite parts of Peacemaker, the show, was the chemistry between John Cena and Daniel Brooks, who kind of play like these two broad-ins to the actual team dynamic with Peacemaker originally from Suicide Squad, and now Daniel Brooks, whose character is Leota Adebayo, being brought in to the fold due to the request of her mother,
Mm.
and because she was down on her luck, didn't really have much money, she closed I think it was a veterinarian shop with her partner.
Yeah, she had like a dog shelter.
Yeah, dog
Yeah,
shelter
yeah,
in Gotham.
yeah, dog
Yeah,
shelter in
at one point
Gotham.
they just dropped Gotham, and I was like, "Whoa, they live in Gotham?"
Well, that was one of my favorite lines in the entire show, where they basically go,
Her wife is like, let's just go home back to Gotham. And I was like,
where it's better.
whoa. Like, because it's so safe in Gotham. Like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, they're like besties. And I feel like they probably connect also because they both probably had really shitty parents. So they kind of like connect on that level too. But yeah, I enjoyed their unlikely friendship.
And her big plot line was not only the one about following through with her mother, but also she was planted there by her mom to bring Peacemaker the fall for the entire mission. And once that happens, then Peacemaker can be taken away for a longer amount of time. So it's a good old liar revealed type of story. But her and Peacemaker's story is kind of parallel with them rebelling against their parents, but also in the beginning doing whatever they can to seek approval from them. How did you think about the Leota Adebayo character? Did you like her? Did you not like her? Where did you think she fit best, and what was your favorite scene with her?
Ooh.
The only thing about her that I was questioning, because everyone kept saying, "Oh, you're really good at this." Like I'm like, you're made for this," and I'm like, I never saw like a point where she was like super good at espionage or like.
I agree. There was that one moment where she convinced Vigilante to get himself arrested and kill Robert Patrick's character, and I was like, "Ooh, okay, maybe we're gonna start seeing like her fucking sneaky manipulative side and like why she's so good at this shit." But other than that, like we don't really see a lot of like standout moments with her where she's like really good at espionage or like kicking ass or anything. Like I was hoping for that kind of like to continue and escalate and like but it really didn't. But I still like her. I liked her a lot.
Now, throughout the whole movie, uh, again, Delilah revealed that she betrayed Peacemaker. Do you feel like Lyra revealed stories with whether it's superhero like shows or any kind of show or movie? Do you think that's kind of like played out because then you were going to have this long drawn out period about them not trusting each other or liking each other, but then they finally come together? Do you think that's a necessary evil in stories like this?
In a way, I mean, it's kind of just like Guardians if you think about it, because that's how the Guardians started out. They're all a bunch of fucking criminals, and they got thrown into this situation together. And then like, I don't trust you, I don't trust you, but we have to work together to get out of prison. And then they end up being a team. So it's kind of a similar thing. In like, again, it's hard because I like James Gunn a lot. I feel like James Gunn has such a, f- a formula, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like he has such a very distinct vibe, and that's good with a director. You want that, but also it's like when you kind of create your own genre, you also create your own tropes. So yes, especially for James Gunn things, like a bunch of misfits coming together and learning to trust each other is not a new concept.
Oh, definitely not. And the liar revealed thing, has it been used a lot? Of course it has. But it's an easy story to tell.
It does build tension.
It
There's
does
there's merit in it.
it does build tension. They kind of drop it early on us and then kind of let us sit on it for a bit here, like we're like, when's it gonna happen?
Mhm.
And you're waiting and waiting and waiting. So that's kind of an advantage with a TV show. Like you can kind of, oh, you tell the audience this person's a liar in episode 2, and then let it sit till episode 4 or 5.
Right, it might have been nicer or more of a shock if, like, you held out a little longer. Like, even with the leader guy, the villain from Guardians 3, again, can't say his name, I'm so sorry, but he, like, they drop, like, tiny little hints, and in my mind, like, in the first few episodes, I'm like, "I think he's one of the butterflies because he's just acting very strange a couple, like, little moments," and then I think maybe episode 3 or 4, he gets revealed as one of the butterflies, and then yeah, it's kind of the same thing, lie reveal somewhat, and the same thing with Danielle Brooks's character. So it would have maybe been nicer if we didn't know until it got revealed, and we had like a more kind of interesting or like mind-blowing sort of like reveal with the characters as the audience that might have made more of an impact, cuz that you can do that too, but maybe it's a little more difficult, I don't know.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, just kind of holding out and not going the step one, step two, step three kind of process. And then you could go step one, then you could go all the way to step seven if you can. And then you could like do things a little bit out of order if that makes any sense to any of y'all. But something that you brought up is the James Gunn formula. Is there anything in this show that you think he broke his usual formula tradition? Is there anything that is different from any James Gunn project that you notice, or do you think it's just more of the same?
Literally, yeah, I think I can't think of anything stand out like different from the formula. Which is I think why we had a struggle like getting into it in the beginning. Because it was just like straight up like the silly side of his formula and like really nothing to latch on to other than that. So it was kind of rough in the beginning. But
Right.
yeah, eventually we got there. But yeah, I don't think it's pretty standard James Gunn fare.
I think he's, especially if you look at this and then you look at like Guardians 3, I think he is trying to expand his like emotional repertoire and like how like his characters interact with like past family stuff. Like we got if you look at Guardians 3, we got so much with Rocket and like his past and how his past affects him.
Well, that was a little different because A Guardians was a whole trilogy and we built up these characters over multiple movies, and also Rocket's a cute little raccoon. So it's like it's different when I mean, sad but true, but if you put animals in peril, generally in movies it's more like, emotionally fucked than with humans. We're all used to seeing humans get fucked up in movies and TV.
Hmm.
But like you put a cute little animal in in a cage and torture them, you're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, but I think he's trying to like in the original Guardians, like we touched a little bit on Star Lord's past, and we've touched a little bit on like Gamora's. But I think like this, he was really trying to touch on Peacemaker's past with like his father and that shit,
Hmm.
and then like Guardians 3 with Rocket and all his shit and his past. So I think he's trying to expand just the depth of his of emotions in his movies.
Mm,
Right. And he's also credited not only as a director for some episodes, but the writer as well. And how did you guys feel like he did as you know, a, a director writer for a television series than a movie? Do you think movies more a strong suit? Do you think television's more a strong suit? Or do you think it's just kind of like even Steven?
I think they're two different animals. They really are.
yeah.
Um, you could tell it's James Gunn, but I think when he's more confined to a movie, when he's like, I got an hour, I got 2 hours, I got 2.5 hours, or whatever he's got, I think his scripts are more tight. I definitely felt this was a little more loosey goosey around because he had 8 episodes to play with.
Right.
I don't know. I really do think that this is kind of like his bread and butter, and like he could probably write a script like this, in his sleep at this point. Guardians, Suicide Squad, Peacemaker. I mean, look at pretty much most of his filmography, and this is the kind of fare we're getting. Um, I mean, with a TV series, you do have more time to like breathe, I guess. Did he let things breathe particularly? No, but I don't think the audience was really calling for that. I think the audience got probably exactly what they were bargaining for, which is John Cena making fucking fart jokes and kicking ass, and then like throw some fucking cool ass like funny jokes in there, and it's again very broy in a lot of it, but like I don't know. It's it's good. I ultimately left the series feeling good about it. It took longer than I thought to like get into it, but I was worried I wasn't gonna get into it at all after the first 3 episodes. I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna be a slog. It's just gonna be this the whole time. But yeah, I he has a way of giving you an emotional core at the center of a bunch of broy dumb humor.
Speaking of broy dumb humor, let's get to our next character. We
God.
have Vigilante Adrian Chase, played by Freddie Storma. So, what do you guys think about Vigilante, who is basically a sociopath? He finds glee in just killing everything in sight, and he is the self proclaimed best friend of Peacemaker, even though Peacemaker kind of just sees him as his friend's kid brother, which is how he is introduced. And I think he's a busboy at a diner when we first meet him, unmasked. And we see Vigilante, who was in a DC property before. He was an Arrow, but a completely different iteration. This one is more comedic. This one is more of a very kid brother who is just hocked up on a bunch of sugar, but also is just killing anything in his path and getting tremendous glee from it. So, how'd you guys feel about Vigilante? How'd you feel about him as a character? I wouldn't even say he has a character arc. He's just kind of there for
No.
the zany and wackiness of it all.
Sure. The bro humor in the beginning with him was killing me. I was like, I'm gonna hate this person. Then after like like when we first get introduced to him in the diner, he has a whole bit where he sees Peacemaker, and then he goes out into like the alley behind the diner and is like all excited that Peacemaker's back, and he goes into this whole long drawn out joke about like, oh, his girlfriend got pregnant, but actually not really. He doesn't have a girlfriend, and I'm not gonna get into the whole. It's like 5 years long, but it's so. I was like, oh my god, this gonna be this guy the whole time? But weirdly, the humor with him kind of evolves into just let's just make him say the weirdest, dumbest shit. And, like just really sociopathic shit, and then after that, then we get a little better with him.
Honestly, I think my favorite moment of his is when we first like realize these butterflies are a real thing and John Cena can't like shoot this family of butterflies, these
Oh
aliens.
yeah.
And he's like, let me do it. And he's like humming a tune as he's fucking sniping these people down. I'm like, this guy's fucking nuts,
Yeah, because
man.
when you first meet him, you think he's just like all talk, and he's just like, "I'm gonna be a superhero," and and it's like, "You're not. Like, you ain't shit, bro." But then once he has that moment where he shoots the family, you're like, "Oh, he's actually fucking crazy." Great. Okay.
Like yeah, his jokes do evolve and they do kind of
I mean, they're still dumb, but
oh,
like
they're
it's a different kind of dumb.
yeah, it's a definitely like he has the moment with the chainsaw. He's like, I want to kill something with a chainsaw, and you're like, dude, what the?
And then we get to that, and we get to that later with the chainsaw bit coming up,
Oh
and
my
that's what I
god.
kind of like about this show is that there are callbacks that get rewarded as you go through, like the bit with the chainsaw we'll get through. Like there's one that's a very like a funny line, then but then turns into a very emotional story that no one really expected. But Vigilante is the source of a lot of comedy, and him as a character, he's not in a lot of the dramatic scenes. Like when Peacemaker kills his dad, and earlier in the show, episode one, John Cena was crying, and then he made up a story like, "Oh, I'm just like training my face muscles," and then John Cena's actually crying after killing his dad, and then Vigilante is just like, "Dude, really weird time to be practicing your like, your face exercises," and Akadamos was like, "He's crying," you know.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Well, well,
What are tears? I don't understand.
well, it's even funnier because at the end when we were watching the last episode, I'm like, you know what? Vigilante's basically Sheldon Cooper
If he was a psychotic
if he
fucking
was a
murderer.
psycho.
I hate Big Bang Theory. But it's like, was Vigilante a welcome part of the show? Do you think? Do you think he kind of detracted from like majority of it? Where do you see him as a character for the show? Was he a hindrance or was he helpful?
Both. Uh
Yeah.
there are times where you're like, yeah, he's a good part of the show, and like when he goes to prison and he has that whole thing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's really good. That's also never came out that he almost like tried to go kill
Like
his father.
almost killed his dad. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
But that was a great I thought he was actually gonna do it, and I'm like, "Oh, great, problem solved."
Mhm.
We killed the white supremacist guy.
Yeah.
No big deal. He has a whole scene where he, like, beats the shit out of, like, a whole group of fucking KKK guys, and it's like, "This is great. Let's do this."
And let's talk about that because that's probably people would think of Vigilante. That's probably his best scene within the whole show. Is we made reference Abidio told him to kind of go into jail and then kill Peacemaker's father just so they can focus on the mission. So Vigilante does this in his mind that he's helping Peacemaker, he's helping his best friend. He goes in there and he goes to the, for lack of a better term, a white supremacist table, and he makes a lot of things that they don't like, and he starts a fight, he starts a riot. He eventually gets broken out again, and this is like during the down period of the movie where everyone's sad and upset because he didn't do his mission and he just kind of like is kind of lost in his place. And like I understand him being upset, but he doesn't really have any depth as a character, but he's also not supposed to have any depth as a character. He's kind of there as a punchline.
Sure.
yeah, that's definitely the case. He's meant to just be humorous.
Mhm,
I think because I know they're doing season 2, I think probably in season 2, I would imagine we'd get something else from him.
mhm.
Like some kind of something from his past, just to give him a little more depth.
Well, someone who's not going to go to season 2 because their character was killed off was Clemson Murr, played by.
Chukwudi Iwuji.
All right.
There we
So,
go.
That was such a bummer. I was actually really sad when he died. I was like, wait, no, he's gonna stop it, right?
so
Or I
Clemson.
thought the butterfly was gonna come out and then he was gonna go into somebody else. But no, that didn't work out. I was
So,
bummed out.
so Clemson Murr is the, I guess, Argus official or one of the officials that is heading this mission of the butterflies, where it's later revealed that he himself is a butterfly, and the butterfly pretty much has all his memories and stuff because that's what butterflies do when they get into the host body. They have all their memories, so he uh, knows every bad thing his host body has done because the story is that the Clemson Murr is not a great guy and he would do whatever it took to pretty much complete the mission. And basically, the butterfly inside his body is trying to do whatever he can to stop the butterflies from taking over. Now, as like a captain leader, how did you think Clemson Murr worked in Peacemaker? Because I really liked him as a character.
I liked him a lot. I thought the actor was great. I thought he was great. I like their whole I like the whole group's dynamic actually as in like everybody seems to know something about everybody but doesn't say, and like everybody's got secrets but they all also want to like help each other, and they slowly bond and trust each other, but yet they're all still keeping secrets. It's it definitely makes it more interesting, and him being the leader, he's got a very strong yet somewhat calming presence that I enjoy.
Well, yeah, but he also. It's funny because I do almost want to go back and watch the beginning again because when he's revealed as a butterfly, Frankie is right. Like there were points where you're like, "There's something off about this guy," but it's kind of like the butterflies' kind of whole thing is there's always something like a little off about them.
Mhm.
Yeah, because human is not their first language, so they don't like fully get it.
Like it's interesting because like there are moments where you're like, yeah, this dude's kind of either like he'll fly off the handle way too quickly. Like there's a whole scene where him and the character economist have a thing about like he's never expressed emotion.
Yeah, because butterflies have something where it's like they go in a host body. The
Right.
smile's weird every time, and like there's like a
Oh my
really
god, that was so
creepy.
weird.
There's a really trippy scene where it's like the butterflies start taking over everybody from like a jail and like like a holding cell, and then it's like everyone's has like this creepy like Joker
Ugh.
smile. And, like
Oh, that
as
was
a
great.
great song choice too, by the way.
Oh yeah, I actually,
But that's something you expect from James Gunn.
yeah, James Gunn is
Solid soundtrack.
he's one of our like when you think of guys who pick great soundtracks as directors, he's like one in the top 5 easily.
It's so unique too. Just brings a
It's
whole
very
different vibe.
It's
hair
broy.
metal.
It adds to the broiness.
It does add to the broiness, but it's not like he has hair metal in here, but the only really popular hair metal song was like Home Sweet Home from Motley Crue, which he played with
We had that in like the emotional moment, and it's like, John Cena, looking back on his relationship with his brother, and he's like at a piano, and it's like, are we supposed to believe that John Cena's playing that on the piano? Come on.
John Cena actually does play piano. He taught himself how to
That's
play piano,
insane.
and that is actually him who's playing the piano in that scene. Yeah,
That's
so
crazy.
that is him. Like John Cena. John Cena has like a lot of talents. Like he taught
Man
himself
of
how to
culture. We love
he
that for
taught
him.
himself how to thanks to WWE, they have language courses available for talent. He taught himself Mandarin from scratch.
Shit.
So he can speak fluent Mandarin. But apparently he's a pay to play winner for all the mobile games like League of Legends. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't like pay to play like people.
No.
That's just a cop out. But we have to move on to our next character and one of my personal favorites of the whole show, Amelia Harcourt, played by Jennifer Holland.
She's our badass.
Yeah, she kind of does play like the standard badass bitch character who like slowly softens, and like Adebayo's her like girly bestie, and like her and Cena have this thing. It's also very like cookie cutter of like, I'm the badass bitch and you're supposed to be like the hot guy, but I'm not falling for your shit,
Mhm.
so on and so forth. And then by the end, she's pretty much fully softened, I think, to Cena.
At least a little bit, yeah. It's not they're not like fully revealed as like a couple or something, but it's like she softened up and touched enough that that John Cena, Chris Smith, while she's in the hospital, was there every day to just kind of keep an eye out on her and see what's happening. And plus, there's a scene within the movie. There's a couple scenes. What I like is one, she figured out that Clemson Murr is a butterfly before anybody else, and because like she's not like like oblivious like everybody else. We had a scene where Leota figured out he's a butterfly, but she Harcourt's like, yeah, I know, I know he's a butterfly. He acted weird, so I asked him about it. He said yes. I'm like, oh, that's a little refreshing. We don't need to pad out this whole entire thing of just like hiding he's a butterfly from everybody. But she really does kind of expand as a character a little bit, where she's kind of like no nonsense, and then you have like these group of misfits that are kind of like softening her up, even though she doesn't want to fully admit it. She's the one who takes the photo. She's the one who creates the group chat with everybody, like the photo of everybody like having a good time after a successful mission. So I think like her as a character did work to the story. I do think like like you said, Frankie, a little generic with the whole badass woman kind of deal, because you could add more layers to that. And I feel like when we get into season 2, we are going to see a little bit more layers and not any backtrack, because with this one, like she's learning how to walk by the end of the entire season.
Yeah,
So
she's
I'm excited
doing
to see where
physical
it is.
therapy and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, they have to have like the standard like bar scene where she's just chilling in the bar drinking a beer, and like some guy tries to hit on her and she beats the shit out of him. It's all like very
She's Gamora.
yeah, yeah. She's Gamora, but not alien lady.
Mhm. And also is engaged to James Gunn himself.
Ah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool,
yeah.
cool, cool.
So
So nepotism. No, that's
No, that's favoritism, I guess. But I mean, she definitely pulled it out. I wouldn't have, it's not like she was shitty and like, oh, she
no.
just got the job because
Yeah.
she was good.
And now we have our man in the chair, John Economos, played by Steve Agee. So how'd
Who
you think
also
he
I
did?
think is mostly just comic relief.
Yeah, he's definitely a comic relief. They started doing this thing where Peacemaker keeps calling him Diebeard, And then by the end of the series, the butterflies ask him, because he's Economos is posing as a butterfly, to set the helmets up that Peacemaker wears inside the building to destroy the cow. And they asked him, "Why do you do that to your face? Why did your host body do that to your face?" And then he does this tragic backstory of why he dyes his beard, because it
I
made
just
him
want
look
to look
younger.
young and handsome.
And then, like, you see Peacemaker's face, and he's like, "Wow, I really been a jerk to this guy."
Wow, I'm an asshole.
I fucked this guy up,
Yeah.
man.
But like John Economos as a character, like he wants to be taken seriously, but you see all his quirks. Like I think
Mhm.
in episode either 2 or 3, they were doing the whole Berenstain Bears and the Berenstain
Oh my
Bears
god, I was
or
dying. I was like,
something.
Jesus.
I'm just like,
Again, such a James Gunn like piece of dialogue where it's just like, oh my god, and it goes on just a little too long, and you're like, come on,
Yeah, that
can we
one.
move on from this?
Yeah, that one went on a little
we,
too
we
long.
like how long ago did we talk about Mandela effect shit? Like no one talks about that anymore. Get with it, James Gunn.
and then we had the chainsaw scene, as we said, with Vigilante. He always said he wanted to kill someone with a chainsaw. And then they were being attacked by a gorilla in a mission,
Oh
but
my
then
god, the gorilla
Economos
dude.
gets a chainsaw and kills somebody, and
Dude, at one
Vigilante is
point
very upset.
they break into somebody's house or whatever, and like they're doing some fucking investigation for whatever, I don't even remember. But like on the TV screen, it's play like a news thing is playing. A gorilla escaped from the local zoo, and it's like, oh well, I guess the gorilla's gonna show up soon. And sure enough, Scott's like, no, 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 not this episode. They're gonna wait till the next one and hope the audience forgot. And sure enough, the next episode, a fucking gorilla comes out of nowhere. It's so stupid, but like
But
it was funny.
but after that point
I
though,
think he talked. Didn't the gorilla talk?
yes, I think he did talk. But after that point, they do drop the dye beard thing. Like the dye beard goes away, no one calls him that anymore.
And he doesn't dye his beard anymore at the end. He's got gray all in his beard. And it's like, oh, he's evolved.
Mhm.
He's accepted. Time is a cruel mistress.
Indeed,
That it
and
is.
and then at the end, he works in the second most famous prison in DC. So
Yeah, but we can't have a television superhero show without our villain, and that is the White Dragon, aka Augie Smith, played by Robert Patrick. Now, how'd you guys think about jeez, I can't even say his name, Robert Patrick, as our villain here? Do you think he did a great job being a detestable, borderline Klansman Iron Man?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was kind of like the B plot villain. I
yeah,
mean, the villain is the butterflies, and then the butterflies eventually go into the two detectives that we've been following that are like trying to investigate blah blah blah. And that was sad. I was sad that the cops like
yes, but
died. That was a bummer.
Mhm.
But yeah, Robert Patrick is just he's I mean, again, like we said before, he's kind of like standard like fucking bad guy, and he does that very well.
he's done this role before in multiple things. Um, I honestly think his best moment is right before he gets shot.
Oh yeah.
Like when he's starting that whole big speech, like I basically own you, and like I like, oh wow, is Peacemaker gonna have to like let him go here and like
I thought he was just gonna like knock him out and like leave him there, and he was gonna live. I didn't think that Cena was actually gonna shoot him. So when he did and he was crying, I was like, oh okay, shit.
Mhm.
But then of course he comes back as a ghosty, so he'll probably be back too for season 2. I would imagine.
He did really well as just this jerk who just doesn't care about his son and just cares about his own self interests. It's a very serviceable villain for the show like this. And of course, we have some other characters like Judo Master. He wasn't really used
Yeah, he was
like
just
they
kind
built.
of there.
Yeah, he was built up as like this like main character, but he didn't really do anything. Like he was sympathetic to the butterflies' cause, and that's why he was helping them.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere too. He's like, "Oh, Judo Master's working with us." Like in the last episode, I'm like, "What the? When did that happen? Like, what are you? What's happening?"
well he does mention at one point about yeah.
I don't even like. He was just a weird character. He was like a nuisance. They didn't even reveal who he was. I'm like, can we do something with this person? Just literally anything. They put him in the goddamn opening, and like he's in the last frame of the opening song, and Cena's literally holding him on his shoulders. I'm like, oh, this guy's gotta be important.
Mhm.
And he's really not at all.
He kind of is just like taking up space. Like he's probably the biggest distraction of the entire season.
That would be Eagly, actually. Which Eagly, I mean,
That's because you don't like birds.
I don't like birds frighten me, but also the uncanny valley-ness of Eagly was really unsettling. And I feel bad saying this, but like I just kind of wanted him to like make the hero sacrifice and leave the story. I was like, I need you to go away.
I will say it is pretty funny. Like when they try to have Eagly fly the helmet
Yeah,
to
like
the
the
top of the
helmet.
building.
Like put the helmet in the barn. Go ahead, Eagly. And he just flies away and like drops it in the forest and flies off. And it's like, yeah, it's a fucking eagle, man.
It doesn't understand you.
So the ending of the probably one of the biggest talking points of the whole series was the ending of after the mission's done with the cows, and then the Justice League come
Oh my god.
way too
That was
late.
insane.
And
First of
then
all, it was so obvious that they were very clearly putting Superman and Wonder Woman in shadow because we're like, Gal Gadot is too expensive for this, and we don't know who Superman is anymore, so we can't show them. But we can show fucking Ezra Miller. Okay. Good idea.
and Jason Momoa.
Oh man, that was funny though. I didn't
So-
think they were actually gonna be there. I thought they were just gonna be in shadow the whole time. I thought that was funny.
So a running gag throughout the whole thing, and I thought it was pretty funny, was Peacemaker basically believes everything, like every rumor on the internet, and will just
Mhm.
tell everybody, like this true like Green Arrow being like the back half of Twilight Sparkle in a brony convention, Aquaman sleeping with fish.
Which I mean, that one is like understandable. Like that one, I would believe.
The Flash
Not
being
to be fucking. I mean, isn't Amber Heard? Is Amber Heard not a fish? Is Amber Heard not a fish lady in Aquaman?
Technically, no.
Right. Well, what do you mean? She lives underwater. She's not human.
I haven't seen Aquaman.
Humans can't breathe underwater, Scott.
She's Atlantean. It's
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's let's do some DNA testing on her and see.
but
What's the percentage of human to fucking fish there?
But Aquaman's also half Atlantean.
Yeah. Psh. But my dog stepped on a bee.
Dude, when I finally watched Aquaman 2, this is the tangent, sorry. I finally watched Aquaman 2 on HBO because I'm like, well, I've watched all the other fucking DC movies. I gotta watch this. And like, she was in so much of it. I'm like, why? Why would you do that? And she's trying so hard. She's like, I'm gonna be redeemed with Aquaman 2. It's like, sweetie, no. No, honey. It was so bad.
Yeah, but a lot of like fun running gags here in the entire series. What were your favorite running gags or running jokes throughout the movie, or just jokes in general of this show? When Peacemaker and Economos are kind of having their tiff because Economos like had Peacemaker's dad arrested. That's why Peacemaker's dad is in jail in the first place, so they could so they could still keep Peacemaker for the mission. And Peacemaker at this point still loves his dad. And he lists out a bunch of names for Economos of who Economos could have framed in jail instead of his dad.
That was funny.
And it's a bunch of celebrities. And every episode does have like an after credit scene, and this was one of them, where it's just like Peacemaker just rattling off 100 names, like Ariana Grande, Drake, Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan, Tinky Winky. Like every character you could think of, Peacemaker names.
I think one of my favorite jokes is when he's talking to Robert Patrick in prison, and Robert Patrick goes, "The first chance I get, I'm gonna tell them everything. But I ain't no rap. I'm gonna tell them everything." And he goes, "What you just described is being
actually
a rat."
Like, yeah, you're a rat though.
Abadiah's trying to apologize for Peacemaker. and this is the fart humor
Oh
again.
my god, I wanted to die. It was so stupid.
And it was just a lot of just like fart jokes, and then like Vigilante trying to do it with Peacemaker, and
He's like, "No, we're
Peacemaker's like,
done
we're
now."
done, and he's like, and Vigilante's like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
But one of the best scenes I think is like with the Peacemaker shield, and Scott alluded to it earlier, is the intro song plays as they're attacking all the butterflies.
The yes or no scene was good too, where the little bug's in the fucking jar and he's trying to communicate, and Cena's like, "Okay, yes or no questions. One knock for yes, two knocks for no." And then fucking Vigilante's just sitting there. He's like, "What's your favorite color?
Yes or no questions.
Yeah, is
What
it
do you like to do?"
is your favorite color turquoise? Something
It's
like
like,
that.
why would it be turquoise, bro?
It's like why is that the first color you go with? you know.
Oh man.
But it's a lot of fun jokes that happen within the series.
Though that last battle, because we just brought it back up with the song and everything playing, I swore someone was gonna die.
Yeah, they
Didn't
were teasing like Hardcourt was going to die because you saw
Oh
like the
yeah.
butterfly come out of a host body trying to get into her, and then Abigail like grabbed it right before it like went fully into her mouth.
Hmm.
Then that was like when Abigail just kind of like kept like going postal after Economos tripped and broke his leg on a fence.
well, yeah.
Oh my god, that was so insane. I'm like,
I,
oh, sweetie, no, no.
part of me did think that one of them had to die at either Hardcore or Economos,
Hmm. Yeah,
just because I'm like that would be like the biggest like moment here, like one of them like in this last battle dies.
yeah, that would have been like a very big stamp of like, hey, this show is actually going in one direction. But I think they relatively played the show safe if they wanted to tell more stories for another season if it were to get picked up. But another one, this actually kind of tied into Peacemaker's backstory, was he was a show and tell guest at a
Oh my
classroom.
god, that was so bad.
So in the beginning of the movie, Peacemaker strikes up a friendship with a janitor who gives him marijuana, but he becomes friends with the janitor and is the janitor's daughter's show and tell project, and tells him all about his adventures that might have or might have not happened. And one of them was he would just answer questions, and someone's like, "Do you like the Flash?" And then he's like, "Yes." And just like everybody else, he's an unbearable d bag, which turned out to be kind of true in the grand scheme of things.
It it does feel that that scene was funny,
Hmm.
but it does feel a little Deadpool esque with the cab driver.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
Dopinder.
yes, like it feels that like that kind of feels like a similar like, hey, this is a weird kind of relationship that shouldn't be a thing. But my favorite part in that scene is, do you know the blah blah blah? Oh yeah, she's the waitress. Yeah, I haven't seen her
Oh
in
my
like 10
god, Becky so
years.
and so. That was
Becky
bad.
Coolidge. Yeah, it's
Yes.
like, I think you might be my dad. What? And
Huh?
we're out of
Okay,
time.
moving on.
So we got a potential father reveal for the sequel. That's pretty nice. But before we go, do you guys have any other standout scenes from the Peacemaker show that you want to talk
I
about?
do like that throughout the show, Adebayo says multiple times, she's like, I'm not made for this shit. Like, I'm just a regular old chick. I got a wife and a fucking dog shelter. Like, I'm normal. I am normal person. I don't belong here. And then at the end, like when everyone else is like in peril and she's like, well, I'm the last person. I gotta get in there and like fucking do the thing. She's like, she turns around to Economos and she's like, I'm made for this shit, and starts running and screaming and shooting everybody. It's like, all right, I see you.
And at the end, she does reveal like the Suicide Squad stuff to the press.
Yeah, I'm interested to see like what effect. I mean, maybe I don't know. What's the like canon situation with Peacemaker in the new universe?
So the characters are going over.
Hmm.
I'm just not sure what's being carried over. I know every character that stayed alive is confirmed. I'm just not sure,
Oh, okay.
like
Yeah, I
if
thought that's what I
like
thought I heard too. Like the
I'm not sure if
Peacemaker
it's like
people are
breaks. Yeah,
good.
yeah, like they're good. Like they're still intact. I think they
Mm,
might carry on the story, but I don't. They just started shooting, so I'm not sure if anything has been
yeah.
released or anything like that. But we're not talking about next season. We're talking about the first season of Peacemaker, and let's talk about their critical reception. So they have a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes,
Oh wow.
8.3 on IMDb. The
That's really
first
good.
3 episodes got 8 out of 10 on IGN, and they got a 4 out of 5 on Empire Magazine. So, with you guys, do you agree with this rating? Do you have like out of like 5 stars, what would you give Peacemaker?
I would give it like 3.5, probably.
Yeah, probably about the same. A 3.5 sounds right.
I think the super high score is probably due to like what I was kind of saying in the beginning. It's like people were so desperate at this point for like a good, just like kind of laid back superhero something that like was actually good,
Mhm.
that they probably just overpraised it because they were just so desperate for something decent, which is fair. Because between Marvel and DC, we were, the last year's been a little rough.
Yep.
Last couple of years been a little rough.
Mhm. Where does this rank on the DCEU properties overall? And that you can include, I guess, I'm not sure if James Gunn officially rebooted the universe, but as of now, as of the live action DCEU,
I would
what
say
do
like
you
in upper middle. You know
Yeah,
what I
middle?
mean?
yeah, upper middle.
Like, let me look at the
I
DCEU
think
actually.
I think this gives Peacemaker opportunity to grow. I think it was a good like first story. So I'm interested to see if they do continue his story, where they go with it. It's definitely upper. It's not like Justice League bad. It's nowhere near that, but I don't think it's anywhere near like
I would put it pretty much on par with the Suicide Squad and
yeah,
like Birds of Prey,
yeah. It's
like that
around there.
level. Like,
I wouldn't say it's anywhere near like Wonder Woman or like you know
yeah, go ahead, Scott. Try to name another DCEU
the
property that was really good.
that was up there.
It's like Wonder Woman, this, and Birds of Prey, depending on who you ask.
Yes.
And like Shazam. But the reason Shazam did so well is because it's probably the most like Marvel.
So, fun fact: Birds of Prey actually did feature a wrestler in it, Shad Gaspard. May he rest in peace.
I forgot he was in that. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Who
was
is
in
he
that.
in that?
He was one of the
Yeah.
bouncer guys.
Oh.
Yeah.
He got, and also another fun fact: Peacemaker. John Cena wasn't the first choice. The first choice was another wrestler, Dave Batista.
Oh. He's like, I'm done with. I think Dave Bautista. When we were talking about this earlier, we were saying I think The Rock wants to be like a Sly Stallone, Schwarzenegger. Like he's all about the ego of it. He wants to be like big action guy forever and always. Batista actually seems like he wants to really like get out of his comfort zone and do different things and like be a better actor. Like he wants to be an actor, which I respect. I feel like he could be because he's actually done really well in things. And then John Cena, like we were saying, is just kind of like, yeah, yeah, I'm down. I'm down. You want me to jump in the pool from the tippy top of the roof? Okay, yeah, no, I'm down. Let's do it. It sounds cool.
I think Batista said he would do another Marvel movie, but as a villain.
As a different person, which I don't think we're gonna do that, bro. You're so recognizable. Like, there's no way. Unless they put you in like a bunch of prosthetics and shit.
But if he stands so slow, stand still, he'll
Well,
be
the thing is,
invisible.
Jesus.
he is very recognizable. But I think if he was going to do another Marvel movie, it's a different character. He has
I mean,
slimmed
he's in
down.
the multiverse exists.
The
now.
multiverse exists. He has slimmed down, so he's not as ripped as he was for like Drax. So
And he has like a giant gray beard, I think now.
yeah, like you could possibly get away with him being another character, especially in the multiverse.
It would have to be like completely opposite of
Yeah, he can't be
Drax,
another
though.
alien.
No. I don't know. I mean, I've seen weirder
But
shit.
well, he's been doing whatever. Like I think he said at one point he's like, I want to work with a different director like almost every movie he does,
Mm-hmm.
and he's definitely bouncing around like all these great directors.
Mm-hmm. I think he said he wanted to produce a little bit more. But
I can see that.
I do like I think I told you guys this movie when you were here last time. Batista has like a movie coming out where he plays like a bounty hunter, but he gets diagnosed with like a terminal illness. So he puts
Hmm.
a hit out on himself because he doesn't want to feel the pain. But then it turns out he was misdiagnosed, but he
Oh
still has the
shit.
hit. He still has a hit on himself, and
That's
That's
brilliant.
really cool.
and WWE superstar Drew McIntyre actually plays one of the bounty hunter guys.
There we go.
So
Hmm.
once that comes out, we could do that. And also,
Yeah.
the Iron Claw, as we're recording this, came out today, so I have to watch that, and maybe we'll do
Oh
another
yeah,
crossover.
it's on Max now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my god. Yeah, you're gonna like that. It's
yeah.
good.
No,
Just
no, we're not advertised by Max, by the way, but Max is.
No.
Yeah, no, we are not sponsored.
We are
None
not
of us.
sponsored. No, 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 no.
though you will laugh at Ric Flair.
I'm
Oh my god,
I'm
Scott was dying in the theater like
I am
I'm like, what
betting.
is wrong with you?
that's the one part of the movie because it's such a bad Ric Flair,
Oh my
and he's
gosh.
one of those people like you can't have a bad Ric Flair.
Yeah. Well, as long as he's not in a pizza place, I think he should be fine. But anyway, this was this episode going over the whole Peacemaker season 1. I'm sure you guys will be back for season 2 once that comes out. But you guys, please plug whatever you need to plug. The floor is, as they say, is yours.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, we are a podcast called Shoot the Flick. Husband and wife team, you know how it goes, and we introduce each other to different movies every single week. We just got through with back to back to back showing of all the, well, not all the Rocky movies. We did Rocky 4, 5, and 6, which Richie also joined us for Rocky 4. And that was really fun. And now we're in like knee deep in My Revenge, as it were. I'm showing him 3 chick movies in a row, so that's fun for Scott.
Oh, what are they?
So,
What are they?
so we just did Mermaids, which is a movie from the '90s with Cher. We love Cher, and then we just recorded Pride and Prejudice earlier today. Scott wanted to die, and then after that, we're probably gonna rewatch Barbie. So that'll be maybe a little more fun for Scott. We'll see John Cena again
That's true.
as a merman.
Get to see him as Ken.
Yes,
That'll be fun.
he is Knuff.
He
He is
is
Ken.
Knuff indeed, I would
Yeah.
say.
Just
But
don't
yeah,
get.
so feel
just
free to
don't
check
beach
us out
anybody
wherever
off.
pods are casted.
Yeah, just don't beach anybody off, guys. Just don't beach
Yeah.
anybody off.
And we're on Instagram as well at Shoot the Flick, so go follow us there too.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining. Always a pleasure talking everything movie and TV show related with you guys.
Indeed.
Again,
It
at
was quite.
Retold, Richie Mars on the Instagram and the TikTok. New episodes every Tuesday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. TTFN, Tata for now, and we will see you later.